The new throwable weapons are some of the funnest new items to come to Elden Ring with the DLC. So today, to celebrate, we're going to rank them all. Whether you want to be Thor or Captain America or something weird in between, these weapons are pretty insane. Let's go. Let me know which of these is your favorite in the comments down below. Just a quick explainer on what these Smithscript weapons are and how we're ranking them here. So the Smithscript weapons are a subcategory of weapons, with one exception, which can be thrown with a heavy attack or some other attacks depending on the weapon. These require strength, dex, intelligence, and faith in order to wield, and you can infuse them with different ashes of war, including some unique ones and different affinities if you want to, say, do certain damage types. They can also be buffed with the new Smithing Talisman and also the Axe Talisman for charged heavy attacks. Just for clarity, we are going to rank all of these weapons that have Smithscript in their name. So not all throwable weapons, so things like the Claws of Night or Spear of the Impaler aren't on this list, though if they were, they'd be at the top anyway. We're going to start at the worst and work our way all the way to the best. We shall start with the worst, and that is the Smithscript Spear. Now, this is a physical only damage, just general spear. Weirdly enough, when you infuse this with Ash of War, you can't put the new Flame Skewer or Flame Spear Ashes of War on this, even though it is like a thrusting weapon with piercing. You can do this with all the other spears and even things that aren't spears. Just a weird thing. Like, I feel like this might be a bug because of the type of weapon that it is. Like, I was really disappointed about not being able to put these on there. Conversely, the Ashes of War you can put on this weapon aren't particularly great. There's also some weird ones like Sword Dance, even though it's not a sword. But the main reason we're here is for the throwing, right? Now, you can obviously throw this with your heavy attacks. You can actually throw it while you are on Torrent, which is unique to the Smithscript Spear that I actually do kind of like. The overall damage on the throw is a little bit less than some of the other weapons, and it doesn't do any sort of stagger or anything like that like some of the other throwables do. I just don't know if the spear itself has a lot of practical uses, especially when it comes to its like oddly set up Ash of Wars that are currently available to it. It's not like the best damage output of these. It's not even one of the top in my opinion when you consider actually using this in a functional build. I really struggled to find something that I was happy with the spear, and I definitely think that, you know, a different player might actually gravitate towards this spear weapon, but just with the limited amount of Ashes of War I could put on it, its limited amount of damage it does with its spear throw compared to some of the other options, plus like not being able to stagger enemies that well with it, I just wasn't really for me. But it's still an okay weapon if you wanted to go this route. But there's definitely some better Smithscript weapons, like a slightly better Smithscript Axe, which is the next one on our list. Now, this is definitely one of the worst, but I really struggled with putting the spear or the axe on the bottom here because I don't really like either of them for very similar reasons, right? Like, neither of them have just like a solid enough attack combos to use in sort of functional builds. The Smithscript Axe does get a little bit of additional points here because it does have a unique jumping throw. Like, you can sort of jump backwards and throw the axe, or jump forwards, what have you, with a pretty quick throwing animation, and it does throw a lot further than some of the other weapons in this category as well. I'm not a huge fan of wild strikes that it comes with, but you could put things on there like the new Savage Lion Claw or something like that. I think you could definitely do something cool with the Smithscript Axe compared to the spear, like say in some sort of a dual wield build setup, having this axe as like a throwable option, say even in PvP, right, to catch people off guard if you're like dual wielding axes and you just like randomly come out and like throw one, something just as like an alternative, right? But in PvE, definitely the same thing, that it gives you a ranged option for a dual wield sort of a build that I do kind of like, but it's definitely not, say, one of my favorite options, because outside of that you're still stuck with the pretty average axe like attack combos, which have just never been like a fan of. I've just never been a fan of them, especially if you look at all my other ranked videos. It's just like I gravitate away from axes typically. It's just not something that I connect with personally, and obviously this is my personal list, so that's why it goes second last. While being stealthy and assassinating isn't a very viable build in Elden Ring, it definitely is in Assassin's Creed, and now in Magic the Gathering with the new Assassin's Creed Universes Beyond set. Thanks to Wizards of the Coast, I've been playing this new set and having an absolute blast. I played some on stream the other day and won 2 of the 3 games after opening the starter pack and some booster packs as well. I got these incredible Evie and Lydia Fries. I'm just missing Jacob, sadly.
By my looks,
I guess I'll just have to go and buy more. It's not just about the cool art though, which there is plenty of. The free running mechanic makes it feel like Assassin's Creed. When free running, you can summon a creature or cast a spell for a significantly cheaper cost after you have dealt combat damage to the player with an assassin, allowing you to fast track your board to get multiple assassins or spells out in one turn. I love this new mechanic and how it fits within like the parkour theme of Assassin's Creed. I've never really been much of a Magic the Gathering player myself, but I do love that they've been doing these crossovers with some of my favorite franchises, like also the recent Fallout sets. But how about an Elden Ring set, hey? Maybe? Let's talk, wizards. If you want to check out this amazing new set or any of the other Magic the Gathering cards, click the link in the description down below. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for sponsoring this video. Number 4 on this list is something that I didn't think I would like, and I actually kind of did. It's the Smithscript Shield. This is just a shield, does physical damage, has the same requirements as everything else. Now, the difference here though is it's not actually a heavy attack that causes you to throw it. It is the weapon skill called Discus Hurl. And when you do this, you'll throw it in the air, it'll like pause for a second, and then it'll heat seek to its target. Now, that's actually what I kind of like about it, especially as well the fast cast time and the fact that it uses like virtually no FP, like it is super cheap to use. So you can essentially spam this from range. It does stagger enemies a little bit out of their animations sometimes for certain enemies. So you can sort of use this from distance as it does have solid range and just constantly spam it, right? Or even in a shield build, like a sword and shield sort of build, it gives you the option there to have a bit more range potential here. The real downside to this shield and why I don't think it will fit in a lot of builds is because it doesn't have 100 physical damage negation when you are blocking with it. So if you wanted to do some sort of like holding the shield and like poking build or something like that, you can't really use it in that way because you will take a lot of chip damage. The other downside is that this is a weapon skill. So whatever you've got in your main hand, you won't be able to use that Ash of War or weapon skill there. This is going to take that place as a way to throw it. So you don't get the benefits that you typically would from, say, you know, a normal shield, but you get this instead. And I just kind of vibe with it. Like, I really think it's a solid enough amount of damage. It's easily spammable for such a low FP cost that you could make something really fun with this in some sort of, you know, shield build or sword and board sort of setup. So I definitely dig it, but it's definitely not my favorite. Number 3 on this list is the Smithscript daggers. This is a weird one because they have their own category called throwing blade, but this is the only weapon in it. But then every other of these weapons is just like a Smithscript Axe, and it fits within its existing category. This is the one that I mentioned like in the intro that's slightly different. I don't know why, but anyway, this is the lightest of the Smithscript weapons, by the way. It also has the lowest base attack rating compared to the others. What's really unique about this is both the light and strong attacks have animations that will throw the weapon. You can't just like attack with this like a dagger, you just throw it. The throw is actually like dead straight from whatever way you are facing. It can miss enemies pretty easy because of that, right? If you're fighting an enemy that moves around a whole lot. Generally speaking though, these are actually quite solid for a couple of reasons, right? The main one is that if you use this in like a light load build, say like a range focus build, using a light load because you get that more distance on your roll, you can keep away from enemies and then you can come out of that roll very quickly and just like bang bang and like throw the daggers. You could also use this in some sort of a status build up build because you can put statuses with the Ash of War on this weapon and just like keep throwing them out. It does come with the weapon skill Piercing Throw, which is too similar to just like the basic throws. It's just like a charged up throw that pierces through enemies. You can change this to Scatter Shot, which is what I did, the Scatter Shot throw, which like throws out like a shotgun blast of the daggers, which is fantastic if you're putting status effects on these, but also does better damage and stagger. And so, you know, like what I did here is like put blood loss or poison on them, and then you get those status effects to like slowly whittle down their health a little bit more to alleviate from the fact that this has such a low attack rating. But you can definitely succeed with these daggers by using a light load build to like dodge and avoid attacks, and definitely something fun to be had there as a very different sort of Elden Ring build. And I did quite like the Smithscript daggers. Number 2 on this list, it's time to live out your Thor fantasies with the Smithscript Great Hammer. This is the heaviest of the Smithscript weapons. It also has the highest base attack rating. Now, what's really cool about these is that the charged attack knocks over enemies, so you can easily follow this up with like some sort of heavy wind up Ash of War, or in this footage I've got the Savage Lion's Claw on my Ash of War here to like follow up. It does initially come with Endure, but like you can obviously change that. The downside here is that the throwing animation is quite a long wind up, so that's sort of the trade-off. Even just the normal one, not the charged variant, there is actually like a running throw, like a dash dashing, like if you're sprinting, then you like press the throw. That animation is significantly faster, and I use that a little bit in certain fights where I wanted to get a bit distance from the enemy to sort of run away and then quickly turn around and like throw the great hammer. But overall, that has a much lower damage than like just even the typical throw or the charge throw. And then you also do get some of the benefits from it being such like it's not a colossal weapon, but it is like a great hammer. So you do high amount of poise damage, plus being able to knock like all humanoid enemies down and follow up with massive attacks to then break their poise to follow up with critical hits. You get those benefits here. I was slightly disappointed with the Ashes of War that you can put on this. Like the main thing I wanted to do was like make this, lightning themed, right? Make some sort of Thor build, but doesn't overly need it or like have any good lightning based Ashes of War, unfortunately. But there's still plenty of solid options in there and that you can definitely play around with this being such a big weapon. And something else to point out as well here is that the jumping attack is just like a standard like jump and slam the hammer down, which is really good if you're trying to close distance or deal damage in melee range. It's like a good variant to actually use because, with these heavier weapons, that jumping attack is always fantastic. Also, that charged throw, you can like throw this thing for a friggin' mile. Like it goes a long way, which I was surprised at how far you can ping this thing. Considering it knocks down enemies, it takes them forever to get to you, but that's why it's number 2. Number 1 on this list is the Smithscript Spear. This is a backhand blade that is twin, so you get 2 of these if you dual wield them. Now this just has so many things going for it, right? Not only is it a backhand blade, so you get some fantastic just normal light attack combo patterns that are very fast and agile. You have the weapon skill Blind Spot, which is one of the best new Ashes of War, that you basically do a bloodhound step behind the enemy and then stab them in the back, get a nice stagger out of that, great way to dodge attacks. And then you also have the fact that it is a Smithscript weapon that you can throw, and when you do throw it, it actually has a little bit of a heat seek to it, similar to the discus hurl, in that you'll throw it and it'll sort of like move around the air and like in like a arc pattern and actually move towards targets. Very different to a lot of the other Smithscript weapons that basically just throw in a straight line, so very easy to miss. This one will actually try and correct and hit enemies even if they are moving around, which I did really like. The downside to that is that the range is significantly less for the Smithscript Spear, which is probably the trade-off for that having its little like heat seek potential here. The other thing to point out as well is that the guard counter on the Smithscript Spear is actually a unique animation where you'll like dodge backwards and then throw the weapon, which is really cool. I quite like that as well, but it just has so many good things going for it, right? The backhand blades have such fantastic attack combos. It's twin, so you get 2 of these, so you can throw both of them when you're two-handing them. You've got Blind Spot as an Ash of War, which obviously you can change to something else if you want to, but even with that, you can change the affinity to like add blood loss or whatever you want to put on this weapon. Fantastic in like a successive attacks build with some blood loss, some Blind Spot on that. You've got the ability to throw the weapon for some additional range, just fantastic. It does a little bit less damage than the other backhand blade, but you've got all these additional benefits of having it, being able to throw it, and this unique guard counter, etc. So it's definitely why it ends up on number 1 on my list, but I'd love to hear your list in the comments down below. Let me know which one of these is your favorite and what you think I have wrong on this list. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.